the soldier who never stopped fighting. In the final years of the Second World War, the world was coming apart. Empires that once seemed eternal were collapsing, borders were dissolving, cities burned, and history accelerated toward an uncertain future. For millions, the war would soon be over. But in the shadows of history, for one man, it would continue for nearly 3 decades. In 1944, the Japanese Empire was already retreating across the Pacific. Allied forces advanced island by island, pushing an exhausted army toward inevitable defeat. Yet far from Tokyo, far from surrender negotiations and political reality, orders were still issued with absolute certainty. One of those orders reached a young intelligence officer named Hiroo Onoda. He was sent to Luban Island in the Philippines, an unremarkable place that would become his entire world. His mission was clear: conduct guerrilla warfare, disrupt enemy operations, gather intelligence, and above all, never surrender. Not under any circumstances, not even if Japan itself appeared to fall. Only a direct order from his commanding officer could release him. For the Imperial Japanese Army, obedience was not optional, it was sacred. In August 1945, the world changed forever. Atomic bombs erased Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan announced its surrender. The Second World War ended. But on Lubang Island, the jungle remained silent. Planes flew overhead, dropping leaflets that declared peace. Messages promised safety, return, forgiveness. Onoda read them carefully and rejected every single one. To him, these were not announcements of peace. They were enemy psychological warfare, precisely what his training had warned him to expect. The war, in his mind, was far from over. At first, Onoda was not alone. A small group of soldiers remained hidden with him, surviving in the dense jungle. They followed military routines, they planned patrols, they waited for orders that never came. One by one, the others disappeared. Some were killed in skirmishes with local forces. Others surrendered, choosing life over doctrine. Onoda stayed. As years passed, the jungle consumed everything except his discipline. He learned to move without sound, to survive on stolen rice and hunted animals, to maintain his weapon as if an inspection could come at any moment. He washed his uniform, he cleaned his rifle, he followed the rules of a war the world had already forgotten. Time outside Lubang moved relentlessly forward. Japan rebuilt itself from ashes into an economic power. Former enemies became allies. The Cold War divided the globe. Televisions entered homes. Humans walked on the moon. And deep within the Philippine jungle, a man still waited for an invasion that would never come. To local villagers, Onoda became a legend, a dangerous ghost from another era. To authorities, he was a problem without a solution. To himself, he was simply a soldier on duty. What makes this story extraordinary is not madness, but clarity. Onoda was not delusional. He was logical within the rules he had been given. Every message of peace contradicted his orders. Every appeal to reason lacked proper authority. To surrender without command would mean admitting that nearly everything he believed in, honor, loyalty, sacrifice, had been meaningless, and that was unacceptable. In the shadows of history, belief can become stronger than reality. Psychologists later asked how a man could reject the truth for 29 years. History already knew the answer. Wars do not end the same way for everyone. For governments, they end with treaties. For generals, with ceremonies. For civilians, with relief. But for soldiers trained never to doubt, wars end only when belief collapses. And belief can endure longer than nations. Occasionally, voices echoed through the jungle. Search parties called his name. Villagers shouted reassurances. Authorities pleaded for surrender. They spoke of peace, of a modern Japan, of families waiting at home. Onoda listened and dismissed them all, because accepting them would mean confronting a devastating truth, that the war had ended long ago, and he had been fighting alone ever since. In 1974, nearly 29 years after the world moved on, a young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki set out with an unusual goal. He claimed he was searching for three things: Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman. Against all odds, he found one of them. Onoda stepped out of the jungle, rifle in hand, cautious but composed. Suzuki told him the war was over. Onoda listened politely and refused to surrender. Without direct orders from his commanding officer, he could not. News reached Japan. The government made a decision. Onoda's former commander, now an elderly man living a civilian life, was located and flown to Lubang Island. He stood before the soldier he had last seen in 1944, and he gave the order. The war was over. Onoda was relieved of duty. Only then did Hiroo Onoda lower his weapon. When he surrendered, the world watched in disbelief. His rifle still worked. His uniform, though worn, was intact. His posture was rigid, disciplined, unchanged. He had not survived by accident. He had survived by conviction. In Japan, Onoda was welcomed both a hero and a tragedy, a symbol of unwavering loyalty and a reminder of what blind obedience can cost. He had lost 29 years, not because he was forgotten, but because he was remembered too faithfully by an ideology that refused to release him. This is not only a story about war. It is a story about time, about belief, about how history does not always end when we think it does. Here, in Shadows of History, we explore not just what happened, but what refused to stop happening. Because sometimes the past doesn't fade. It waits in silence.
If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more in the future, please give us a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and why not, write to us in the comments what other kinds of stories you'd like to see on our channel. Thank you.